Dallas. Thank you so much for joining us with Retire with Clarity with Chris Massenburg, John Lawton, co-founders of Open Air Advisors. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. Gentlemen, how are you doing this week? John, how are you?
Doing great.
Great. How about you?
I'm okay. Unfortunately, I'm watching too much of the news, as I'm sure a lot of you out there are as well. We've got to talk about the inflation measures, what we can do for retirees, pre-retirees right now, hopefully some solutions for folks as well. I'm going to leave that part to both of you guys right now. But along with severe drops in the market, the incredibly high inflation, interest rates rising, slowing in the housing markets and so forth, this, I truly believe, is when you need financial guidance the most right now, right? Hey, John, you and I have joked before, the last 14 years, it was pretty easy for anybody to do well on the markets, right?
Throw a dart at the dartboard, and pretty much anything, any asset class that you're going to pick is pretty much going to have appreciated over that time period.
Now I kind of feel throw any dart in a board, and that asset class is going down right now.
It's going down. Whether you're stocks, bonds, the places where we went for safety all of these years have really, unfortunately, it impacts the retirees that are trying to make their portfolios safer, and you've seen fixed income drop just about the same as equities.
Chris, specifically, let's talk about clients who you have right now, the folks who you help manage. Most of them either getting ready for retirement, pretty close to it, or already in retirement. Are they calling you concerned about inflation, needing to adjust the budget, saying we need a little bit more money right now, or have these kinds of factors been taken into account before?
Yeah, so I mean, absolutely from the clients that I work with, I get calls every now and then, but most of the time when you work with a professional, that's part of the planning process, is that we plan for inflation and those what-if scenarios that we plan for with clients. Because when you're sitting down and, I think of the engineer out there who does the math himself and says, you know what, I got X, Y, Z in my portfolio. I can live on X amount of dollars. I take a little for taxes. How often are they including inflation? And then if they do, I'll bet they're undershooting that number.
That's exactly the point that I wanted to make. Yeah, you could even have the engineer out there who's plotting everything out, had everything in their graphed out paper at home, using their pencil and their protractor.
Spreadsheet.
But who would have thought about putting 9% inflation into their calculations? So you're not worried about shortcomings with your clients?
No, if you work with a planner and you work with any of us at Open Air, I mean, part of that process of planning and leading up to retirement is planning for these what-ifs, right? So we want to make sure that we work on what's the money that's going out, what's the expenses, and are you realistic with what you can spend? I think that's a great place to start for anybody. And then, what if we have these one-off scenarios where we get inflation? It hasn't been this high since the 80s. We got to plan for those one-off scenarios, and we have buckets of money in different risk asset classes like safe money, risky money, and so we can lean on some of the safer stuff in market turmoil times like we're going through right now as well. So it's kind of a bag of all of it hitting at once. Markets in volatility, inflation high is a 40-year high, all this stuff going on at once. But a lot of my clients that I work with and I get phone calls from, it's more of just a reassurance call, like, hey, this is what we talked about, this is what we planned for. So this is the time where we've got to just stay calm, know that we put this into plan, we've been working on this, and that you've got professionals like us working on it daily.
John, how about yourself? CNBC said that 71% of retirement age investors are worried that inflation is going to negatively impact their nest egg.
71%?
Yeah.
Come sit with me. It's 100%. 100% across the board are concerned about inflation, and I don't know anyone who's not. But going back to what Chris said, you're having those multiple buckets of money. We spend a lot of time talking through what our plan is going to be and reinforcing what that plan is. And there are adjustments that are made along the way. But when you have multiple sources of places where you can go to drive that income, maybe the plan has been driving it from those risky assets. Last 14 years, that's where we've taken our income from, because that has been able to produce for us. And our clients have that money, but they also have the safe money and those buckets of money that they can go in and access while the market's down.
What about, okay, speaking of the market down, what about folks who are doing this on their own, some of the engineers, as we like to call them, or do-it-yourselfers? What about overreacting to the market? What about people who are jumping out of the market right now after already taking a 20% loss?
Oof, man, that's tough.
It's really tough, and right now, part of the show and getting an analysis, because what you don't want to do is, and what we saw a lot in 2008, and there's a lot of advisors out there that maybe didn't live through 2008. I worked for one of the big box banks during 2008, and you saw a lot of folks move to cash, and they moved to cash for the most part at the very bottom. When we make decisions, when are you most scared? It's whenever it hurts the worst. So whenever you make that decision, is usually at the bottom. When are you going to get back in? How are you going to make that decision?
Yeah, you've got to time it right twice, going out, coming back in.
What factor are you going to use to say, all right, now it's time for me to get back invested again? And what you see day in and day out is those folks, years pass and it never feels right again. It never feels right again. It never feels right again.
I think, unfortunately, the psychology for all of us is that when things are bad, they're never going to be good again. And when things are good, they're never going to be bad. And so, especially like you talked about in the last 14 years with things going up nonstop, I think people got complacent. And I met with a lot of people over the years that had too much risk in their portfolio. And we would go to have these tough conversations. What are you going to do when this thing goes, 25, 30, 40% down, because you're not protected, you're not diversified. So we got to work on that. And so, a lot of clients that I work with and have worked with over the years, that's part of that conversation. And it's every quarter, every year, we've got to remind you, this is why we do it. This is why we structure it this way.
Yeah, folks, I remember doing programs with you as soon as the end of last year, and it was people fighting to look for returns, that there was no interest, even the safe money wasn't working on anything. And we have 14 years of kind of being asleep at the wheel, because there really wasn't much angst or pain that people were feeling. And it's all come crashing down in like 6 months.
Yeah, and we did have, COVID, we did have 2020, and a lot of things really did have a major correction during that time period. But if you skipped a quarterly statement, it all came back so quickly. And I'm here to tell you, I think this time is different. When it happened through COVID, we had a lot of government stimulus to come prop the market back up. And it is exactly opposite this time, Spike. It is exactly opposite this time. And I'm not sure, I think a lot of people need to look at this and understand that this is probably a bigger issue than just a 6-month down and up. This is going to take longer to recover from than it has in the past.
And part of what you were saying, that stimulus money that was going out, it was propping up the markets. And in fact, a lot of people were playing with it.
40% of the money supply was created in the last 2 years. 40% of our money supply was created in the last 2 years. So when you look at
the exact opposite right now. So
they're pulling money
rising
off the
interest
table.
rate, they're pulling money out.
Right.
They're making it harder to borrow and making it much harder to spend with the high inflation right now. So we need solutions. The Clear Path Retirement Guide, Chris, for folks who are worried about the high inflation right now, what can having a guide or sitting down in a meeting help somebody with in coming into the office?
Yeah, if you're at home and you're wondering and you're concerned about inflation and how it's going to impact you and have I properly planned for that, I would encourage you to call us and sit down or talk to us over the phone and see if we can help put a plan together for you. So if you come into our office or you meet with one of us, we're going to look at your existing plan. Are you being tax efficient? Are you prepared for inflation? Maybe there's somewhere in your budget you can also trim some of that expense going out. Everything matters, and you can have a little bit of assurance going into retirement or while you're in retirement that things are going to be okay if you plan for them properly. So I would encourage you to just pick up the phone, call us now, 844-333-6059.
Chris, John, we've got to take a very short break right now. Call so you can get your own Clear Path Retirement Guide. We're going to go over everything from your investments, your taxes, your fees, healthcare planning, even discussions on legacy planning. All of the things that fellas do in the offices every single day, and helping people plan for their retirement, even when there's things like high inflation, recessionary times going on. Call the phone number you see right here, 844-333-6059. More Retire with Clarity with John and Chris when we get back right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Welcome back to Retire with Clarity with Chris Massenburg and John Lawton. What do you guys do with Stuart? Is he hiding back there somewhere?
Haven't seen him.
Also one of the co-founders of Open Air Advisors. So part of the team of Open Air Advisors, you are both, of course, financial advisors there. Do you use the same methodologies, like each one of you kind of putting together the same kinds of plans and philosophies when you're putting together the Clear Path Retirement Guide?
Yeah, I would say the foundation's absolutely the same. I mean, we approach it in efficiency, how can we minimize taxes? I mean, we've said that quite a bit, but also the what if scenarios that we talked about earlier, planning for inflation. But, each of us might have a different approach to certain items, but for the most part, the foundation is the same.
Yeah,
right.
The process is the same. Obviously you go sit down with Chris. His personality is a little different, but I think
Gonna hear a couple of dad jokes in my office.
you might hear a few more dad jokes, but at the end of the day, the output is the same. The deliverable, the work that we do is the same for any of the folks that come in.
And the focus is really about retirement planning strategies, income strategies for retirement, setting up your legacy planning and so forth. It's a lot different than what you've said to me before, John, about accumulation kind of firms. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a totally different mindset of the kind of client you most benefit.
When you think of an accumulation firm, and when you think of, take for instance your 401k, really whenever you're thinking about accumulation, you're focused on a number. What number can I get to, right? I'm trying to get to, $1 million. I'm trying to get to $2 million, $5 million, whatever that number is. And everyone's different, but everyone has kind of that number that they're thinking in their head. And that's the magic number, and now I can retire. When you work with someone who's that focuses on folks that are in retirement, that number changes to income, right? Mm-hmm. Now we're thinking of Social Security. We're thinking about what that asset can do for us as far as an income goes in retirement.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I would say that most people I meet with don't think of the retirement number they need. They think of what age they're going to work to.
For sure.
And then we have to back engineer that number.
Right.
Okay. But if you don't start earlier, you don't want to wait on that, because you don't want to get to that number and then just walk into my office or John's office and plop down statements and go, all right, can we do this? It's not the time that you want to start the planning. You want to get in early if you can.
But if that's you,
we certainly can help.
Call the number today, because that does happen quite a bit. I'll just say, of the calls that we get, we do that for a lot of, especially right now with the turmoil in the market. There's a lot of folks that may not be ready to retire, but it may not be their choice, whether it's a health issue or possibly
a reduction in force, a change in the job, or you just don't like the way that your job dynamic is changing right now.
Oh.
There's a lot of folks right now who are saying, in fact, a new study by Qualtrics, a lot of folks thinking that their nest egg is going to have to be larger, or that they're going to have to push back their retirement. And if there's a reduction in force, they might not have an option there. So if somebody is worried about that, getting uncomfortable feelings from work, are you willing to sit and talk with somebody to see if they're ready for that pre-retirement?
We do that day in and day out for folks. And right now, that's a hot topic item. That's one that we're doing on a very regular basis. But I would say for anyone who's facing that, anyone who's out there in Dallas thinking about that, or that might be your reality, I would really, really urge you to go get that Clear Path Retirement Guide. Call the number and get the Clear Path Retirement Guide, so you know what your assets can do for you. And maybe you look at that and you say, well, I'm not ready to live off of that amount. Maybe I do need to push back. Maybe I need to look at my budget a little bit. Maybe I need to, do something, wait a little longer or tighten the belt a little bit. But at the end of the day, at least you know what you can expect from your retirement. And maybe you do push it back, or, the retirement landscape has changed so much in the last 5 years. So many people are continue, they're dropping their hours, or they're retiring and coming back, or doing a
I
part-time
was wondering
job.
about that. A little bit more consulting
Picking
or
up part-time,
part-time
yeah.
and doing all different kinds of things, even as we call it, the gig economy. It's like I like to work, a couple of months of the year. So it might not have to be Monday through Friday at the office. A lot of that.
Well, work from home. I mean, work from home has become, I've got teachers that teach online, and they might be teaching in a different country, but they're they get on their Zoom calls and they're teaching, or they're doing it for the college. But that's another way for them to generate income. Maybe they retired, maybe they're living on their TRS pension, or whatever kind of if it was a college job. But then they're going back, a lot of them, and doing more work because they're not done. They just don't want that Monday 9 to 5, and if you're a teacher, it's really not 9 to 5, right? It's all hours of the day, and you might get your summers off, but did you really get your summers off?
Yeah.
We work with a lot of teachers, and they really are. Hey, I've got a 4 and a 6-year-old, and I appreciate them every day.
Absolutely. And working part-time is not, it's not a bad thing if you want to pick up a part-time job in retirement. I mean, a lot of clients I work with are, what I call busybodies. They can't just sit around and do nothing after retirement. So they go do something that they enjoy, that fills that time, also gives them a little bit of sense of purpose. But they still have the freedom to do the things they want to do and retire, lower their handicap on the golf course or go traveling, whatever that is. But it gives them a purpose, and it gives them something to continue to do, and then supplement that retirement income as well.
Well, and if you can do that and keep your social network up, one of the things that we do, we have live events that we do in North Dallas and in Rockwall, all around DFW. But part of that retirement, that transition, is the social aspect of it. And we see a lot of folks retire, and all of a sudden they're, where are all my friends? Where's Judy that used to sit next to me, right? And you're searching for that, and so. That's part of the live event strategy is, hey, here's a network of people.
Living a life of purpose.
We like to call them lunch and learns and do them on a monthly basis. And I have a funny story. I actually had clients that were both single that ended up meeting at one of my lunch and learns. So we get like-minded individuals who are in retirement, and these two just individuals happen to be single, ended up getting together at our lunch and learn. So open air, we can
Open Air Advisors dating service.
Matchmaking service.
No, but living a retirement of purpose, whether it's volunteering or working part-time, consulting and so forth. So there's lots of different, it's no longer the rocking chair and porch retirement days is what you're saying
No
today.
way.
Absolutely.
No way.
So if you want to do that, you can.
Absolutely, yeah. There's some people who said, no, I've had enough. Mic drop, I am out of here. I don't want to do that anymore. But it's very different. Chris, your clients in particular, anybody called you recently and said, I need to get back in the game. I just can't do this. I can't stay at home all of the time. Do you ever get anybody who kind of does like a trial retirement? Maybe they take a month or two off before they get there completely? Yeah. Or is that part of kind of testing out the lifestyle before jumping
absolutely.
off?
I mean, typically, I would say more often than not, individuals that I work with or have met with, work all the time. They don't take a lot of that sick time or that leave. Yeah. So we hear it every day. People have accumulated weeks and weeks. And so if that's you and you're about to get to retirement, it's not a bad idea. Give it a shot. See what those days are like when you don't have to go to work. And I find more often than not that people say they don't even know how they got things done when they were working because they're so busy in retirement now. Yeah. Everyone knows that they're retired and hey, can you do this for me?
John, the Clear Path Retirement Guide. Yep. Do you address things like lifestyle, or is it all about the numbers, the dollars and cents?
I'll just say the Clear Path Retirement Guide is about the dollars and cents. And at the end of the day, it's fun. We have a relationship with our clients. It really is, a family that we work with. But at the end of the day, we got to get the dollars and the cents right. We got to get that level of risk and the Social Security and the income right. We have to get those numbers right. Now, how it's delivered and how we talk and how we interact with our clients, 100%, because we got to know, what your legacy plan is, what you want for your children, what your lifestyle is going to be, because that lifestyle all feeds into what your budget is. We got to know the numbers, and we're willing to do that for anyone who calls today. And I'll put it out there to everybody in North Dallas today. If you're watching the show and you're wondering what your retirement is going to look like, if you're wondering what level of fees you're paying inside your 401k plan, or you've already got an advisor and you just want a second opinion service, maybe you're wondering about your level of risk. Maybe you've had some volatility this year, or wondering how inflation might impact your portfolio. Call the number today, 844-333-6059, and get your Clear Path Retirement Guide today.
Thank you so much for watching our program. We're going to continue to talk about inflation solutions for your retirement, but make sure that you get your Clear Path Retirement Guide. Call the phone number you see right here on the bottom of the screen, or you can use the QR code. You can open your phone and go right to the camera function, point it at the QR code, and then click on that link, and you can schedule an appointment right away to get your own Clear Path Retirement Guide complimentary to the viewers of the program. Or you can call the phone number right here as well on the bottom of the screen. More Retire with Clarity with Chris and John of Open Air Advisors when we get back right after this break.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Retire with Clarity with Chris and John. I'm your host, Spike. They are the co-founders of Open Air Advisors. And when we're talking about inflation protection, I mean, there are no guarantees against inflation. There's no guarantees about how long your money is going to last if you live 30, 40 years in retirement. But I will say this. I hear this pitch a lot. I see this in ads. I see this in magazines. Inflation protection inside things like annuities. Now, are you guys fans of annuities? You got positive, negative against a tool like that? How do you feel about them?
Well, are you positive or negative about a hammer or a screwdriver, right? I mean, they're tools. And I would just say, well, let's take your we were talking earlier, your lawn mowing equipment, right?
Well, that thing I hate.
Yeah, okay, well.
My lawnmower, it's a beast. But no, I get what you're saying. It's like,
but if you're trying
this is a tool.
Right. And if you're trying to edge the yard, the mower doesn't do a very good job at that. But the edger does, and the edger makes the perfect line, right, every single time. And so what I would say is annuities are simply a tool. There's a lot of folks in the olden days, a lot of people, worked for a company. They saved in those different plans, and the company was responsible for giving them a monthly paycheck for the rest of their life. That was a pension. Yeah. But essentially what that is an annuity payment. And so most folks, I mean, we see people every day. It is very rare to see that, unless you work for a government contractor or a city or municipality. I'll just tell you, my dad was a Dallas policeman for 38 years. And so any of the Dallas policemen that are out there know that there were some issues with their retirement funding there a few years back. But there's that pension that they're able to live off of. And so a lot of folks don't have that, and they're looking for that type of money. We call it mailbox money. It gets there on a monthly basis, whether the market's up, down, indifferent. And so the only way to create that is using an annuity.
Now, Chris, how do you feel? Do you have an emotional sway one way or another? Because I'll hear people say things like, I don't like annuities. They're not liquid. I hear they have really high fees. Again, all of these rumors that I apparently listen to. And
we got to see who you're talking to.
I got to stop talking to these people, right?
No, but I'm indifferent. Annuity, just like John said, it's a tool. Everything has a pro and a con. Equities and stocks have pros and cons. Every investment tool has a pro and a con. So I'm not opposed.
For or against.
Yeah, I'm not opposed.
You're just trying to
What's
define
the goal we're trying to accomplish, and what tool do we need to use? Screwdriver and a hammer. If I've got a nail, a screwdriver might not be the right tool. We need a hammer. You can build a house with a hammer. You can also tear one down. So it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, and then what tool you need. Again, I don't have any feelings one way or the other.
So can something like this that advertises inflation protection. Could this annuity tool possibly work properly in your plan?
Yeah, but I want to say one thing real quick. I am not a fan of high fees. So there are good and there are bad annuities out there. And one of the things whenever you work with open air advisors is we're going to shop through and make sure that you're getting the right ones. So I do want to make
and
that.
I think the people that come in with that predisposition of I hate annuities, I think it's just some of them can be very complex and hard to understand. And then some of the people out there offering these products only do insurance and only offer annuities. So if you go talk to someone that offers insurance, what do you think the solution to your problem is going to be?
Yeah,
Insurance,
yeah,
right?
Insurance or insurance
and most people don't understand the vehicles they have in a lot of cases, and so we want to make sure you fully understand what we're talking about, how it works for you, and then what it's going to do for you long term, like this inflation protection we're talking about.
So a tool like this, this isn't something that you would probably even talk about in a first meeting. This might be something, if it's a tool you're going to use, could be really far down the road.
Yeah, as fiduciaries, I'm definitely not going to talk to you about it in the first meeting because I don't know anything about you yet. We're going to get to know you, what's important to you, what goals you're trying to accomplish, and then as fiduciary advisors, I've got to prove that that recommendation is in your best interest.
That's exactly right. We may not use, one thing that I think is interesting is as we see folks coming in and you see the same accounts from the same advisor and they all have the exact same annuity. And we see that on a fairly regular basis, unfortunately. One of the things that we'll do is we'll shop it. We'll make sure, there's a lot of annuities out there. The market's going up and down. We want to make sure that every single time you're getting the right one that fits you, whether that's income or protection or you're looking for legacy, whichever it is, or if you mentioned inflation protection. Yes, there are some where that income payment will track with inflation. So if you want inflation protection, there are those that are out there that will track to that and help protect you as inflation becomes.
And these offers from these companies change. I mean, I get emails daily, weekly that they change these offers all the time. So something you may have looked at in the past may have not been right for your situation then. Let's evaluate. Let's look at it again.
Let's look at interest rates right now, right? I mean, that's one of the, inflation is one of the challenges, but on the other side, that's increased the rates on all of the insurance companies offering. So if you're looking for guaranteed income, if you're looking for protected, something that is safe, but also gives you potential for interest, those interest rates have really come up in the last 6 months. So maybe it wasn't something that you were looking for then. It really might be a good time to look back at those and take a look at those again.
So an annuity, don't feel one way or another, but define what the purpose of that money is, what is the goal, and see which tool you actually need. Gentlemen, thank you so much for talking about inflation today. We need to continue to talk about these topics. We're going to be back again next week. Folks, thank you so much for watching Retire with Clarity. Get your own retirement guide by calling the phone number right here, 844-333-6059. Thank you for watching Retire with Clarity. We'll be back next week.